99 crew members, 99 families who faced a horrible nightmare, picturing their loved ones dying alone in agony and despair, thousands of feet beneath the ocean's surface. 3,500 tons of advanced technology that didn't hold up to its promises, and a deadly torpedo that could have turned against the owner. What happened to the USS Scorpion, a high-class submarine entrusted with national security? And why did the authorities, both within the government and the Navy, downplay and withhold critical details about the investigation? Let's find out. In the race to maintain naval supremacy during the Cold War, corners were cut, and that meant someone decided to put 99 lives at risk. The USS Scorpion's final voyage was doomed before it even began, and the warning signs were hiding in plain sight. Picture this. It's early 1967, and the USS Scorpion is undergoing what should be a comprehensive overhaul. But the Navy, pressured by operational demands, rushes the process. They don't have the 9 to 36 months required for the intensive maintenance and vetting. Numbers confirm and tell a chilling story. The Scorpion's overhaul costs only 1/7 of what other nuclear submarines are spending. It's a red flag waving furiously, but no one seems to notice. Or do they? Crew members start to whisper. There's a persistent problem with freon leakage from the refrigeration systems. An electrical fire breaks out in an escape trunk. One of the most critical safety systems isn't properly fixed. These aren't just minor hiccups, they're screaming sirens of impending doom. But the Scorpion is designed for advanced operations. It's supposed to be a marvel of engineering, so they assume everything's going to be all right. Little do they know that instead, it's becoming a case study of how not to prepare a vessel for the unforgiving depths of the ocean. To make matters worse, the Scorpion is armed with Mark 37 torpedoes. These weapons have a history of battery overheating issues. It's like carrying a ticking time bomb, one that could potentially turn against its own vessel. Despite all this, the Navy makes a fateful decision. In February 1968, they send the Scorpion on its next mission to monitor Soviet submarine activity and gather intelligence in the Mediterranean. Some months later, they wish they never made such a decision. After spending several months patrolling on May 21st, the crew sends a message indicating that everything is normal, and they'll be back home in Norfolk, Virginia in less than a week on May 27th. That's great news. Many are relieved. The days pass quickly, and the families of the 99 crew members gather at the pier in Norfolk to welcome their loved ones home. Children clutch welcome home signs, wives smooth their dresses, parents check their watches, all expecting a joyful reunion similar to the past. But there's no sign of the Scorpion. Something's terribly wrong. Normally, submarines like the Scorpion maintain regular communication with the fleet through coded transmissions, especially during their approach to port. As Scorpion hasn't, the Navy initiates standard procedures to try and locate the submarine. They use radio signals and sound waves, and even include mathematical consultants attempting to ping the submarine's position. But nothing. No response. In desperation, they deploy 35 search aircraft, 55 ships, and other submarines, but it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Underwater. The officials are desperate. It might be because of them that the Scorpion hasn't returned. They're well aware they made the decision a few months back to reduce the overhaul. They're well aware that the Scorpion didn't meet the safety standards of the SubSafe program created following the loss of another great submarine, the USS Thresher 5 years earlier. Navy commanders afraid of consequences scramble to piece together what could have gone wrong, while families just wait on the pier, watching the horizon with growing anxiety. At first there's chatter, nervous laughter, whispered reassurances, people clinging to hope that this is just a delay. But as the hours drag on, the crowd quiets, and the tension hangs thick in the air. Mothers clutch their children tightly, trying to keep their own fear at bay, while fathers and wives stare out at the water, eyes scanning for any sign of the Scorpion. With every minute that passes, the weight of uncertainty presses harder. They play out every scenario, imagining their sons, husbands, and fathers in the cold, dark depths of the Atlantic, maybe alive, maybe gone. The festive atmosphere slowly gives way to a creeping dread that something has gone terribly wrong. They stand there, helpless, waiting for news, any news, but nothing comes. The Navy holds a chilling secret. Shortly after the Scorpion's last communication, they received hydrophone data suggesting an explosion in the Atlantic. As the search vessels plow through the waves, the grim possibility that they are looking not for a submarine but for debris weighs heavily on the minds of Navy officials. 10 days later, on June 5, 1968, after days of search and dread, the Navy officially declares the Scorpion lost. The reality that their loved ones will never come home hits the families gathered in Norfolk like a tidal wave. The shock and grief is unbearable. They want answers, but the classified nature of the mission and the Navy's tight-lipped response leave most questions hanging in the air. The loss of the USS Scorpion spawns a multitude of theories, each more unsettling than the last. Some experts speculate that one of these torpedoes may have exploded inside the submarine, causing catastrophic flooding. It's a terrifying thought, the very weapons designed to protect the crew becoming their ultimate downfall. But the internal torpedo detonation theory isn't without its critics. Some argue that the submarine's safety protocols would have prevented such a disaster. Yet, the rushed overhaul and the corners cut in maintenance left room for doubt. Can a simple malfunction have led to such a devastating outcome? Another theory points to a possible hydrogen explosion. The submarine's batteries, when overcharged, can produce hydrogen gas. In a confined space like a submarine, this volatile gas can accumulate to dangerous levels. A single spark can trigger a massive explosion, tearing through the hull and sending the Scorpion to its doom. As the Cold War context looms large, some whisper of a more sinister possibility, a Soviet attack. The idea of an underwater battle, silent and deadly, captures the imagination of many, but hard evidence to support this theory remains elusive. 5 months pass, and in October, the U.S. Navy's oceanographic research ship, USNS Mizar, finally finds the vessel. Everybody hopes to get answers, but it is the contrary. The Navy's investigation, frustratingly inconclusive, only fuels more questions. Families of the crew members, desperate for closure, find themselves helpless. The lack of definitive answers leads to accusations of a cover-up, with some alleging that the Navy is withholding classified information about the Scorpion's true fate. As theories multiply, so do the conspiracy theories. Some claim that the Scorpion has been involved in a top-secret mission gone wrong. Others suggest that it has been sacrificed in some grand Cold War strategy. These wild speculations, while unsubstantiated, speak to the deep-seated need for answers in the face of such a profound loss. The truth behind the Scorpion's demise likely lies in a combination of factors, each more chilling than the last. The rushed maintenance, the potentially faulty torpedo, the dangerous accumulation of hydrogen gas, all these elements could have contributed to a perfect storm of disaster. In 1984, the Norfolk Virginian pilot and the Ledger star obtains documents related to the inquiry and reports that the likely cause of the disaster is the detonation of a torpedo, while the Scorpion's own crew attempted to disarm it. The U.S. Navy declassifies many of the inquiry's documents in 1993. So the haunting echoes of the Scorpion's final moments still resonate in the depths of the Atlantic. 99 lives were lost, leaving families without closure. In the wake of this tragedy, the Navy implemented significant changes to submarine safety protocols. The SubSafe program, aimed at improving safety inspections and component quality, became a cornerstone of submarine operations. Yet, the mystery of the Scorpion's fate remains unsolved. The U.S. Navy periodically revisits the site to determine whether wreckage has been disturbed and to test for the release of any fissile materials from the submarine's nuclear reactor or 2 nuclear weapons. Except for a few photographs taken by deep-water submersibles, the U.S. Navy has never made public any physical surveys it has conducted on the wreck. In November 2012, the U.S. Submarine Veterans, an organization with over 13,800 members, asked the U.S. Navy to reopen the investigation on the sinking of USS Scorpion. The Navy rejected the request. A private group, including family members of the lost submariners, said they would then investigate the wreckage on their own, since it was located in international waters. Time will tell what lies ahead. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and see you next time in Dark and Strange.